Story 1. This is a revenge in multiple parts and apologies upfront for the length. About 30 years or so ago, I was 17 and about to head to university. An acquaintance through my parents' church offered me a job working with him, learning to be a pizza chef. Awesome. I'd need money for university, and I'd already had a stack of jobs, so working hard was nothing new for me, but being a cook certainly was. My experience with Italian was limited to Pizza Hut, so I accepted that at the start. I was a liability, not a help. I started work, and at first, I worked for free. Cool. But when it got to the point about 3 months later that I was opening by myself and taking whole shifts by myself, well, I should be paid. I screwed up all of my 17-year-old courage and confronted the owner. Let's call him Nick because that was his name. He huffed and puffed and tried to tell me how terrible I was, but I stood my ground, and now I was on minimum wage. Not bad in my eyes at the time. I worked there for another 3 years, through most of my university degree, often putting in 30 hours of contact at university, 30 hours at the restaurant, and 30 hours of study. It was hectic, but just became the norm. Towards the end, I became a lot more savvy and started researching labor laws, keeping records of my pay packets and end-of-year tax receipts, and realized Nick and other co-owners were cheating me. I wasn't on the correct rate, they weren't deducting tax correctly, and there were a couple of other accounting oversights. By then, I was working with my at-the-time mate, let's call him girlfriend creeping D-head. It was Sunday night, the place was packed. I had tickets all the way down my line, and girlfriend creeping D-head and I were pumped. We had a new boss who just bought into the business, who thought he was the king of the world because he was now a restaurateur, a right egotist. But after years of having to stay back to cook pizzas on World Cup nights for the boss's friends, or Christmas, New Year's Eve, etc., I was sort of used to the grandstanding chest-puffing behavior. That night, the new boss would let me start the second pizza oven, think a 2-tier oven. I was only allowed the top tier on because it cost too much. So here I am, oven full, 2 pizza chefs running full speed, and we're only falling behind because one oven wasn't enough and it was starting to cool down from being so full and opened so frequently. New boss gets a couple of tables of mates in. Instead of just asking us to cook some comp garlic bread or whatever, he starts loading up trays himself and putting them in the oven. Not the worst crime, but because he had no idea what he was doing. Every 30 seconds he'd open the oven to check them, cooling the oven down even further, potentially ruining the food we had in there and slowing us down measurably. I had the head chef chewing my rear end as his food was ready to go. But my food on the same tickets wasn't. It was hectic and not fun. This garlic bread bandit behavior had to stop. Me. New boss, stop messing with my oven. If you want garlic bread, just ask. I'll get it done immediately for you. New boss. What? Huh? Me. You're messing with my oven. You're cooling it down, and we're too busy for this nonsense. Just tell me, and I'll make it. New boss. Okay. Did he do it? Nope, he kept on. Cue the same conversation another 2 times. The last time, I told him I'd blow my stack if he did it again. You see where this is going. He did it again. Now, after being consistently ripped off and abused so many kooky stories from that place for 3 years, my time was up there anyway, and this was the time to do it. I looked at girlfriend creeping D-head and said, "Yo, we're out of here?" He looked back and simply said, "Yup." We stripped our aprons and, in front of the entire restaurant, the pizza kitchen was in full view of the entire restaurant, threw them on the bench and told new boss, "We quit. All these tickets, all the food in the oven you've messed up, and your mate's bad garlic bread, this is all yours now. Good luck." Then we walked out, got some coffees from the baristas, sat in front of the pizza area, and watched him absolutely flounder. He had no idea what he was doing, and there was literally no one else there that could help him. We could see food coming out from the kitchen, but the pizza on the same ticket was taking 20 minutes or more longer to come out. Tables were hopping mad, we could hear the grumblings all around us. I'll admit it was satisfying to behold. That's not the pro-revenge, though. The pro-revenge was that I'd been stealing my timesheet every Sunday night, photocopying it, and then replacing it Monday mornings. I'd been doing that for over a year. I'd also told girlfriend creeping D-head to do it. Monday, I walk in. And Nick was there and was furious at me. As I walked in, you could see his chubby face turn bright red as he bellowed across the restaurant floor. "What do you think you're doing here? Get out and never come back." Me. "Nick, we've got to talk. We can do it here, or we can do it in your office, but trust me, you want to have this conversation privately." "Nick? Fine. You come with me then," he said, desperately trying to gain the upper hand back. He stormed to his tiny office out the back. Nick, shouting about how he's going to withhold pay and a whole heap of other illegal hot air. Me. "You done? Good. Here, read this." I handed him a printout of an Excel spreadsheet, a stack of photocopied timesheets, a stack of photocopied payslips, and printed copies of the wage awards, all of which detailed the amount he'd ripped me off for. "Me? You owe me $6,000. I'll take cash or a check now." Did I mention he and the other bosses had been simultaneously raided by the tax office and that they and the business were all on thin ice? Yeah, bad timing for Nick. Nick, spluttering, wringing his hands. But I can't afford it. Look, I'll show you my bank accounts," as he physically started scrambling to find his bank statements. Me. "Nick, I literally don't care about you, your bank accounts, or your situation. You owe me $6,000 today or I take all of this to the tax office and all of the other relevant government departments that will be very interested in this because, Nick, I have a feeling if you're doing this to me, you're doing it to other staff here as well. Huh. As for not having the money, well, again, not my problem, but you just bought a new $60,000 Pajero. So if you have to run that down to the car yard and sell it, again, I don't care, but I get $6,000 today." He literally teared up a little. I'm not sure why. Maybe through frustration, rage, or just being outsmarted by someone he thought was way beneath him. But seeing a grown man who's abused you for many years cry at your hands is a pretty beautiful thing to behold as a 20-year-old kid. I got a check that day for my whole $6,000, and yes, it cashed. But the best was walking out of his office with girlfriend creeping D-head standing there who deadpan just looked him in the eyes and said, "Nick, we need to talk." And in they walked to do the same thing. $10,000 he lost that day. The best part, a few of my friends at the restaurant caught wind of the fact that I had enraged him and asked what it was all about. I let them know how they were being cheated, how to take copies of all of their timesheets, and where to find the relevant laws. I know of several other people who did the same thing to him. And that was how I left the hospitality industry and started working in my field of study, never to look back. Hope you enjoyed my cake day present to you all. Story 2. This has all been finalized, so I decided to post it. For obvious reasons, I didn't want to post it while it was ongoing. Last summer, I bought a house trailer and decided to rent it out. It needed some work, so I posted an ad offering 2 months of free rent for putting down carpet in the living room, hooking up the hot water heater, and installing a toilet. I got a nice couple with a newborn willing to do the work. Great. No lease, month to month. No security deposit, and the rent was $450 a month. They did the work, so I didn't ask for rent for 2 months. Everything was fine. Side note, there are a few little state laws that come into play. If you don't pay rent for 3 consecutive months, you are considered a squatter, which means the landlord doesn't have to fix the property and can actually padlock it and deny you entry. If you're on house arrest and get formally evicted, you could be in trouble. Also, you can be formally evicted even if you have already moved out so the landlord can get rent due. Even though there are eviction bans, if it happened before the ban, it can still go through. Plus, a few other conditions still allow someone to be evicted. It's up to the judge, really. Fast forward 5 months and still no rent money. Yes, they had a newborn, and they were young and didn't have a lot of money. But the husband could spend $500 on a new engine for his project car. They could afford to go out to eat and spend money on electronics, but no rent. So after that 3rd month, I did nothing. The weather was turning cold. I didn't put in the furnace like I promised, and if they hadn't had a newborn, I would have padlocked the house. They were bragging about their tax refund. I gave them a shot to catch up, and they basically said that they knew their rights and were on a rent strike illegally. I might add, you will see later. COVID-19 happened, and the husband got laid off. so I gave them a break. When he went back to work, I asked for back rent again and was told to forget it. I finally had enough. I told them they had 14 days to get out, or I was doing a formal eviction, and since he was on house arrest, he knew what that meant. I honestly was trying to keep him from having to go back to jail and keep an eviction off of their record. I was trying to be nice and civil. So they left, and I cut my losses until I checked the property. Everything they put in, they removed. Everything they got free rent for was gone. I got upset and filed for a formal eviction. It didn't go as they hoped. They said I didn't provide heat, so they went on a rent strike. Only they didn't file that with the courts or hold the money aside. They just thought they could stop paying rent. What they put into the trailer was less than the rent. The judge agreed with me that since they took everything, I was due those 2 months' rent, and the biggest part. He started criticizing my character, so I said, "Well, you didn't tell me you were going to be going on house arrest when you rented the property." Before then, the judge looked bored, but he perked up. He asked them if that was true. They responded that it was, and he was ready to make his ruling. I received 15 months back rent at $450 a month and $2,000 in damages because the way they removed the stuff, they damaged a lot of things. As for him, the judge said he had no choice but to turn the eviction over to his parole officer. Fast forward to this month. His house arrest was violated, and he was arrested. They actually had the nerve to ask me to speak on his behalf. I didn't. The ruling was his remaining 6 months are now being spent in jail. They have a bad eviction on their record, and they owe me money. Know the law before you play the game.